Hi, everybody. Um, Coming on a little bit late tonight. Couldn't be helped. Lots going on behind the scenes because a lot is going on in Juarez, Mexico, or I should say Chihuahua, Mexico, and also in El Paso. A lot is going on. President Trump is on the move. He's on the move. And of course, this is the epicenter of really the election tampering. I mean, it seems like uh, because it funnels into the intelligence agencies. It's El Paso is. I just can't even tell you how important El Paso is in all of this, in the attack on President Trump. I just can't even, and I'm going to try today to put that together by using um, a triple hatter. I think you would call it a triple agent, a triple agent. Um, So, people that are out there, they can, that know something more, can correct me if I'm getting my facts wrong, but I think we are getting them right, because it is so absurd what I'm about to tell you, and that corroborates the attack on President Trump and on our son, because those are very connected, along with the Walmart mass shooting and the cover up and the level of cover up. It seems so absurd that I have to ask everyone out there for information. If you were at Fort Hood or Fort Bliss, this is really important to know, because the case of David Scott Frost and his divorce and who he uh, uh, is reaches both Fort Bliss and Fort Hood. So, and I'm very familiar with both places. I'm very familiar. I was married. Rob and I were married on Fort Hood. Um, so uh, I'm very, I worked as a teacher in Killeen, so I'm very familiar with both Fort Hood and Fort Bliss, and with the troubles that these bases have seen. So President Trump renamed um, Fort Hood, because under the Biden administration, they tried to change the name to obfuscate what was all going on there. They tried to name it well, they did name it to Fort Cavazos for a short time. And I kept telling the family on my live stream, I don't know if it ever got to them, but I would call them up right now and say, "No way are you putting my name on Fort Hood. No way. Take my name off of Fort Hood. What a dishonor. First, clean up Fort Hood. First, clean it up. And then maybe I'll consider you using my name to put on Fort Hood." Um, because the troubles are so bad there. And the case of David Scott Frost is a good example of that. A really good example. So let's get started. I see that I'm live. Okay, so I know it's 2 o'clock in the morning, but it has to be done, even if it takes this long. We had a very amazing day for Richard, his birthday. We did launch the petition to honor Richard. I hope that everybody shares that and really petitions for us to sign that you sign that petition to have Richard's case reviewed for honor, And I think it's, well, we as a family, we think it's very important that his case be reviewed because there is so much misinformation out there. And our goal as being his family is to get the truth out there. And because there's so much misinformation, what better way is to have another review of his case, especially when it comes to his eligibility to be honored with um, medals that we say he's eligible for. Okay, that we say that the paperwork clearly um, that Richard is a hero, that he was a whistleblower, that he did his duty in the line of duty on Fort Bliss in a very hostile environment to protect children, to protect our national interests, our national security against the infiltration of cartels that are not just cartels, but that they have been designated as transnational terroristic organizations, and that he protected against that. So, against the children, against the trafficking, against all kinds of fuel trafficking, weapons trafficking, whatnot. He stood against that, and um, and uh, he lost his life. He was forcibly removed from his barracks room, even though he was under whistleblower protection. But the protection was called off, and he was forcibly removed from his room, and he was taken down to the basement room, which was the arms room, which is a secure location. It's a soundproof location. Not everyone can go in there. Um, and of course, the prime suspect in Richard's case is his platoon leader, with others' help. And so a platoon leader absolutely has access to the arms room. So that corroborates also that the arms room had a seal on it, a crime scene seal on it, and that the director of emergency services, um, Thomas Kane, um, confessed that the commanding general ordered an illegal order to have that crime scene totally renovated with no sparing of expense and not having to abide by protocols for bids or anything like that. Just spend whatever you need to and have the crime scene tampered with, have the evidence destroyed. Um, I don't think he did that, but uh, um, as far as, I'm sure a lot was destroyed, but we have so much that, of course, Richard was declared in the line of duty. They didn't want that. They wanted a false narrative out there. And because of the evidence that we have, we feel so confident with Richard's case that we put out the petition. Okay. Um, so the petition is to earn your trust and confidence also in what our evidence uh, confirms, and that what we're saying is the truth. And it is devastating because it's an internal attack on a whistleblower that we're in alliance with, and also part of cartel operations within our military. And not just cartel operations, but transnational terroristic organization cartel operations. Um, and so that's, of course, we know that Richard deserves to be honored, and um, and then it has a dual reason to um, uh, to get that review, to get that review of all the evidence and get it out there, and really pound to the ground, to hell, really, to pound the false narrative to hell, you know, because we're sick of the false narrative, that they have no evidence at all. And so, and of course, this false narrative was put out there by Richard's command, by El Paso Matters, which is so dirty. The command is so dirty. Well, they're treasonous. They were treasonous. And also the CID and other agencies, the FBI. And so that's why uh, it is really a good time to say, explain Mayella, but explain David Scott Frost. Okay. Uh, explain Nadal Baib, right? Um, but explain David Scott Frost. Uh, I think today is a good day to do that. Tonight, early in the morning. Um, and, you might wonder, who is he? Who is David Scott Frost? Um, I can only tell you what we know, and he, we know 100% that he's was active duty military, that he was at Fort Bliss, living on Fort Bliss. We know that. We know that he was serving in headquarters battery 1AD under Sean Bernabe, very close, directly, because he's headquarters battery 1AD under Sean Bernabe. During his divorce proceedings. I really want to focus on that because that time was, uh, um, of course, intersects. The divorce proceedings intersect with Richard's case and also the Walmart mass shooting case. So it's a very important time period, 2020 through uh gosh, and beyond. Okay, 20, I don't know when it ended, his divorce. I do, but I don't remember it right now. It's so disgusting. Uh, I hope that everyone understands. I want to make this very clear that reading through these mountains of, open records, um, the tampering is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. What you have to go through to get open records is, it's such a shame. It really is a shame because it confirms that our agencies and institutions are not working properly, um, and are being taken advantage of and corrupt. And even with all of that, the system still is glorious. I can't even imagine if it was all working properly, how it would be truly a golden age. It would truly be a golden age. So, um, 4th of July is coming up, and everybody should have their flags out and everything because you have a lot to. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to celebrate because even with the level of corruption that we have, um, we still got the open records. It's just not all of them, not all of them, but enough, enough. And so back to who um, David Scott Frost is. He is a big part of the Mormon faction. senior NCO. So the last that I read is that he was the E7. E7 in headquarters battery 180 under Sean Bernabe. Sean Bernabe, um, we met with him many times. He's so dirty. He's so treasonous, y'all. Sean Bernabe is so treasonous, and they gave him a 3rd star. He's retired. So that tells you something. He, because he's not very old, um, and he made, you know, his 3rd star at that young age. Normally he would never retire. I mean, he would just go for it for the 4th star. So something, that tells you something is really happening behind the scenes, because he needs to be court-martialed, and he needs to face the highest penalty that we have in our country for being a traitor, for treason, for treason. Because let me be clear about this. There is not a doubt in our mind that he is not a traitor and that he committed treason. Okay? Not a doubt. It is just that overwhelming, the evidence. And to have David Scott Frost under him, it confirms that even more. Okay? So we know that David Scott Frost absolutely is an operative for the Maru Campos um, administration in Chihuahua, Mexico. So active duty, but also an operative for the Maru Campos, the El Chapo fentanyl governor, Maru Campos. This connects um, our military with El Chapo's proxy, a Sinaloa cartel proxy, which confirms that the Sinaloa cartel was infiltrated in our military and probably still is. I can't even imagine what they're having to do to clean it all up, because it is being cleaned up. We have plenty of evidence of that, but it's just incredible, the infiltration, because it's not just the Sinaloa, because Maru Campos is in alliance with the El Paso cartel, which is a conglomerate of cartels. The Sinaloa, which she's the proxy for, because her campaigns for being a mayor and a governor were paid for by El Flaco Suguera. I hope I'm saying his name right. Which was the lieutenant for El Chapo. So she is the proxy for El Chapo. And she's in alliance with the El Paso cartel operative, Alejandra de la Vega Foster, who's a double agent. And but I don't want to lose sight on David Scott Frost, because, you can really, there's so many tentacles, and you can go, I don't even call it going down a rabbit hole. I'm saying that, this is a web, or like an octopus with tentacles, and you can, you want to tell about the El Paso cartel, you want to tell about the El Chapo fentanyl governor Maru Campos, you want to tell about her mother, um, being in charge of health permits and stuff, and the whole allowing Plenitude Crematorium, that disaster with the funeral fraud. And good news, and I should, I'm going down a tentacle, but good news that Jose Luis Ariano Curon is being referred to Interpol for a red notice, and he's a fugitive, and they want him extradited. Why do they want him extradited? Because he lives in El Paso, okay? He lives in El Paso. They are, close with, they are, uh, it's so, and you have to understand that Plenitude Crematorium is connected to Group of Purchase. Okay, so this is almost like a funeral home fraud monopoly, really, transnational, cross border, whatever you want to say, because the border meant nothing for them except for trafficking and money and all that. Um, they crossed over all the time. They had control over that with with their um, compromised agents, and that's where um, uh, David Scott Frost comes in, because not only was he active duty living on Fort Bliss and under Sean Bernabe and being an operative for Maru Campos's administration, but he was also the lead FBI agent for the Walmart mass shooting that happened August 3rd, 2019. Um, that is just, I know it seems so absurd, but 100%, there is no doubt, 100%, he was the lead FBI agent of the Walmart mass shooting. Okay? 100%, he was operative in the Fiscalia of Maru Campos's administration, speaking to Carlos Manuel Salas to stop our son's case, our son's investigation. And 100%, he was active duty soldier under Sean Bernabe in the 1AD headquarters battery, living on Fort Bliss. Now, wrap your heads around that. And then there's more. Because he was, how did we find this out? Because he was in real trouble of his own making. Okay? In a very volatile divorce case. And who was investigating him? The dirty Fort Bliss CID. You have to understand, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Wayne Hart, his mother, Leilani Hart, who she's already made a new name for herself, to cover, for cover. Cousin, CID Tavita Nusa, who lost his badge later on, right? Had it revoked. I think that's a better way to say it. Had it revoked and was removed from the Army. Same thing with Dallas Hart, removed from the Army. I mean, he went green to gold and then he got removed from the Army. Yeah, that tells you what's going on behind the scenes. The media or the even the media and the military will, cushion it and paint it pink or whatever, they and give you a false narrative. But I'm going to tell you right now, see the CID Tavita Nusa, who is, former loser, is also a prime suspect. And of course, who covered for him right in front of my eyes, our family's eyes, was dirty agent Marlon Soto Hernandez. Okay. So dirty. So dirty. And also, all of these people need their demons and they need to be arrested, okay, or court-martialed, however the system, because I love the system when it works right. And we got to get these demons out of our uniforms, out of our law enforcement, out of our intelligence. And David Scott Frost, his divorce is, to me, not trustworthy because CID was involved. Because CID on Fort Bliss was so dirty. And this happened at the same time. Because Tavita Noose's cousin with Leilani Hart, okay? Who told us that? Who told that they are of the Mormon faction? So that puts them together more closely with David Scott Frost. That was IDS Pablo, the father of Dallas Wayne Hart, James Hart, who was also being investigated at the same time. And CID called him up to, oh, hey, James, yeah, I just want to let you know you're covered. You're covered. Who told us that? James told us that. Okay. James Hart told us that. And James Hart told us that that they were the Mormon faction. That came from him. So we checked it. He's right. He alerted us to it. Does that make him a good actor in this? No, because he was in the Fort Bliss VA and was accused of the worst type of crimes against children. And then also misusing Social Security numbers, files, everything at the VA for personal gain. And there's a lot more to corroborate that. But I want to focus on David Scott Frost because what we found out through these divorce papers that were, they tried to screen some of them. Okay. I don't want to say redact. I want to say screen some of them. Some of them are missing. Okay. Some of the files that need to be there. And I think it's because they are so crazy, vile, and vulgar that they rather chance being accused of tampering with a file than showing the vile and vulgar. But, they're a little bit, because the case is so vast, they missed some things. They missed some documents, the documents that showed how vile and vulgar this case is. And it absolutely is about sexual assault. It is the abuses that is alleged in this is, well, it took me till 2:00 to come on because you want to throw up. So the statements that David Scott Frost made in this paperwork are enough to make your hair curl. But the thing is, he's in headquarters battery under Sean Bernabe, leading the FBI investigation of the Walmart mass shooting. Is being under Bernabe absolutely in the middle of our son's case. Okay. Absolutely. And there's no doubt in my mind because he went over as an operative for Maru Campos' administration to direct Maru Campos' hand-picked prosecutor in how to move forward in Richard Halliday's case, which is not to move forward, was to bury it. So he was in the middle of our son's case. He's the lead in the Walmart mass shooting, and he is being accused of the most vile, vulgar, sexual assault, abusive, divorce. My heart goes out to his wife. My heart goes out. I just want to just cry because what is Sean Bernabe? What a monster. What is the CID? What is the family advocacy? They are absolute monsters. And uh, child youth services and um, um, they are, because this absolutely corroborates, confirms, in my opinion, that the level of crime against children going on Fort Bliss was so bad, was so bad, um, and they were just covering it all up, which then corroborates, strengthens, confirms what our son was whistleblowing on: the crimes against children, the connection and infiltration with the cartel, with the transnational terroristic organization, that it was being and part of the command structure, um, and the trafficking, and the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting to attack President Trump in order, like to frame a narrative. Clearly, they did that, but that they orchestrated it bloody because, this is how vile and vulgar these people are. And, um, and to sabotage the 2020 election. That these people are connected to Beto O'Rourke. And of course, the whole El Paso cartel conglomerate operation on the border that was focusing on developing the Centinela platform on the Chihuahuan side of the border, that used FISA to house American agents, dirty agents, because these are all dirty agents over there. Sorry. To be sitting in the Torres Centella, operating for Maru Campos and, the El Paso cartel operative Alejandra de la Vega Foster. I mean, her husband is Paul Foster, who was buying stolen fuel from cartels. That's not something I made up. And who operates with. And this is, of course, Woody Hunt. This is the Mormon faction. They are, you. This is not even an opinion. This is just crimes against humanity. This Mormon faction lives to commit crimes against humanity. They operate to commit crimes against humanity. That is how they, if it takes stealing, if it take, look at the news coming out today with the El Paso ISD. What is it? Way over $50 million deficit. I mean, they get loads of money anyway, and yet they have 50, you know, the theft, and then they go, oh well, it was because of oversight. No, it was because of cartel infiltration, the El Paso cartel. It was because of corruption and a vast transnational terroristic organization that was using those tunnels under the schools, and that was using the El Paso ISD police to do their dirty work, and they paid them off, and they used taxpayer money to do it. You know, come on, let's not sugarcoat. Let's not live in a false narrative. The El Paso ISD, those board members, they are up to no good, and really they need to be investigated. And I think when you investigate them, you're going to find out that they need to be arrested, because just the bus situation, doing these contracts on these luxury buses to send them over to Chihuahua, to send them over to Juarez to pick up Mexican children, to bring them over every day, every morning, every afternoon, to bring them over to El Paso to put them in the schools. Which schools? The one that has the tunnels that they're trafficking through? Paying, I mean, you have to go down to, like, what was it? Way over 460 top paid individuals in the El Paso ISD before you can get to a teacher. And you have these unqualified individuals on the El Paso ISD Police Department, and you have an unqualified Manny Chavira for how much time? And that was a quid pro quo for the Walmart mass shooting, I think, because who was he working with? Was it a Mayella? Was it a Mayella? It's just to make him the El Paso ISD police chief. Are you kidding me? And the connection with Nadal Baim. I mean, they're all connected. And that is not me. That is hard evidence. So let's not fool ourselves about El Paso ISD. Um, and if anything's going to happen, we're going to have to make time. I mean, I live in South Carolina. Um, and if you're in El Paso, you're going to have to make time to square this, write your reports if you have children in the El Paso ISD. Send it to, even if the agencies are corrupt. What do you think we've been doing for years? And that's why we've been able to move those cogs of justice, because keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. Yes, the individuals in the system are corrupt, but the system itself grinds. It grinds towards justice because they can't hide the truth. And so you can never give up. You have to use this. It's a beautiful system. Yes, the people inside of it are gunky and corroded and polluted and they're nasty. And but we were never going to move forward if we don't use our system. And there's nothing like it, nothing better. Because we do have transparency, we do have open records, we do have still a mechanism for complaints. And you might get answers back that you think, what? You know, and you got to keep going, got to keep going. Don't let them fool you or intimidate you or tell you it can't be done. Or, that they're going to say, oh, we didn't find any just cause for um, David Scott Frost's wife's complaints. Oh man, you read her complaints and you're like, the CID are liars, they're dirty, they don't judge justly. And it's not because of the system, it's because of the likes of Tavita Nusa and Marlon Soto Hernandez and the likes of Sean Bernabe. Because when you have a situation, I mean, just try to explain David Scott Frost to anybody, and they will be like, what? And you're like, yep. Try to explain Mayella, and they're going to be like, what? And you say, yep. Try to explain Nadal, Tassin, Baim, and they're going to be, what? And you're going to be, yep. And the question is, what do we do about it? Well, we use the system. And we can't be lazy. We have to file our complaints. If we don't speak up, we lose our voice. And, I think that is, and so, how is a nice way to do it? Well, Richard's petition. It's a nice way for people to have a voice. Yes, let his file be reviewed. He, President Trump does not write a letter about Richard Halliday with the level of respect and courageous, indelible, loyal, worthy of honor, worthy of accountability, of justice, of the nations to admire him, worthy of you can't speak like that if you don't know all the details. And so let it be reviewed and let them come back and let's destroy the fake, the false, the lies, smear campaign that they launched against Richard before before they took his life. Don't forget that. They tried to set him up, frame him before they took his life because they knew they were going to take his life. And he was a distinguished honor graduate. He was a whistleblower. He was the guidon bearer. He had been promoted so many times with waivers and the fastest runner in his unit. And his record was stellar, is stellar. And they plotted and connived to try to set him up and frame him and get him to do things that would compromise him. And he didn't fall for it. He didn't fall for it. And why do we know he didn't fall for it? Because we've debunked everything that they've said. And yet they have the El Paso Cartel, who is El Paso Community Foundation, who is El Paso Matters, who's Bob Moore, the dirty, lousy scum of the earth, Bob Moore. You know, and I'm supposed to not get angry, you know, but when I see them covering up for the likes of Frost and Todd Petkus, he was, the partner, FBI, also, military. Also an operative. Also shady deals. Shady deals. Yeah, being covered up by JAG, PP McGee, while they are telling us lies about our son, covering up the truth about their treason. Yeah, it's hard to not get angry, but we have to stay, really focused. A lot going on behind the scenes. And yeah, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for coming on so late. The truth is coming out. A lot of gratitude for anybody that signs a petition. Because, it's kind of risky, right? It's kind of risky because you have really bad actors out there that want to, protect their treason. And so we really are very grateful for those that sign it, that get other people to sign it, that petition for our petition. Very grateful for that. And a lot of good things happening. So, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. God willing. And I will, yeah, I'm going to go get